Hey guys, welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast with me, Alex Whiteley, and Happy New Year. This is a brand new era of the Shrewsbury Biscuit simply because it's 2026. So, I mean, every year's a new era, isn't it? But hey, we're back. And we got a great show for you today. I'm speaking to my good friend, Luke Allen, who's bringing along a mystery guest to talk about a topic I know not much about. And I've done that purposely. So you guys learn as I learn, as they're teaching us, and we all learn together. That's the way I love to do the Shrewsbury Biscuit. That's the ethos on this, the way that this podcast being born, is I learn about the town as you guys do. And it's always worked. So that's what today's podcast is. I just wanted to say a quick thank you before we get into this episode because, was it last week? No, it was, it was about 3 weeks ago. Next week's guest, Alice Nestor, who's coming on to tell an incredible story. She put a post on, from Shrewsbury when, a great group. I've always used that for more for bringing. I should really spam my stuff more. I should, because that's kind of what you're supposed to do. But I mean, I used to. Anyway, I use that group to connect with people more than anything. And Alice put a post on there just before Christmas saying that she wanted to talk about her journey, and she wanted to find podcasts, local podcasts, and so many people tagged me and the Shrewsbury Biscuit in that post, so I'm really grateful for all of you guys, and I just wanted to say it happened because of you guys, and so next week we're going to bring Alice, and she's going to tell her incredible story, her journey dealing with a brain tumor. And it's one of those things where you see a lot in the news, you read a lot in the paper, but what's the actual what actually happens? You know, we talk about people and their heroic battles, how they survive these things, but what actually happened? We've covered a bit on this in the past, but that's dealing more with cancer rather than the actual the discovery, the treatment and recovery of a brain tumor. So that's what we've got to look forward next week, and it's more lighthearted than you would think. And Alice is a rock star. So thank you to Alice, and thank you to everybody who tagged me in that post, because you guys made it happen. This is a long one, so without further ado, I give you guys Luke Allen and his mystery guest. Let's go.
I said I took my lumps, roll with the punches, made my bed, ignored my hunches. I focused on the wrong stuff, but baby, you are the change now. Let them talk, let them talk, let them talk. Took my lumps, roll with the punches, made my bed, ignored my hunches.
All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast for 2026. It's been a slow start, but a very good start, because today I'm bringing a good friend of the show back on. I hope we haven't spoken to each other for 2.5 years. Mr. Luke Allen, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Yeah, thanks for having me back. It was bizarre how long it's been. I was on my way up here, and I thought I'm just going to check the last one I was on, and yeah, it was like summer 2023.
Yeah.
I listened at 2 times speed to check that I haven't said anything horrific.
Yeah,
and I never do, but I'm always paranoid.
Yeah, there was no. So obviously, with people that are very potty mouthed, I like to use duck quacks. There was no duck quacks on your episode, Luke. You're absolutely fine. So.
No, I think there were a couple over you.
Yeah, probably. That's when I was coming out of the whole. You suck, Inglorious Barstools thing, where I was kind of like, it's okay if you throw a few F's. I like things to sound organic, you know? Yeah. And if that's part of your vocab, then it's part of your vocab. I mean, I've spoken to some people that are so brilliant and so intelligent, and it just happens to be part of their vocabulary. If it's free and flowing, and you'll go on the podcast, you just end up with duck quacks instead of your words. That's all. Right, so today we're doing a podcast that I purposely didn't want to know much about until we got here today. So I want to learn as the listeners learn. And you've brought a friend with you today, a new friend for me as well today on the podcast. So would you like to introduce your friend today, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm here with Merryn Rae Peachey, who's a former script supervisor in the film industry for, was it 10 years?
10 years, yeah. So 10 years as a script supervisor, and then from a little babby from 12, I was doing volunteer runner stuff, etc. So it's been a while.
In and around the industry, seen it all happen.
Yeah. So I started as volunteer doing whatever I could in Leicester. And then I moved up to Nottingham to go to uni and specialise. Pretty much picked up script supervision from there, and then went on to just basically do that for 10 years.
What was this out of necessity? It was just happened to be part of your life, or did you feel like you needed to be part of that industry? I mean, what was that like for you as a young person?
I think as a young person, I was very much following in my brother's footsteps. My brother is an actor who is wonderful and does a lot of theatre shows.
A big shout out to your brother.
So he's an actor, and I was very much into acting when I was younger. I was in drama groups. I did drama GCSE. I did drama A-level. So I was very much kind of looking at that, but I was also very obsessed with the character of Abby from NCIS, and also wanted to be a forensic scientist. So in my head, I was like, maybe I could do forensic science part-time and then acting part-time and as you do as you're a kid.
Absolutely.
And then basically just a series of events of in my drama group. I wasn't particularly put up for anything, cast for anything. And A-level drama, I had a teacher that was very demoralising and not very supportive, which kind of transitioned me into behind the camera. I was doing film studies at A-level at the time, and my teachers for that were amazing, so obviously that drew me across as well. My drama group did end of year films instead of end of year plays, so I was like part of the crew there, and the DOP and I got on really well. And it was just kind of like a natural transition for me from maybe this isn't working, or I'm not feeling this anymore, let's go behind the camera. And then it was just a sort of a long process of trying everything. I was a data wrangler, I was a sound op, it's just sort of a long process of finding my role in that sector.
But your primarily desire was to become an actress, being in front of the camera.
When I was younger, yeah. But after that transition, it was more like, I want to be a part of production, wherever I am in that, let's work it out. And at uni for a little bit, I was kind of going towards producing, but I cannot do what Luke does. I cannot be responsible for getting people fed, getting people there on time. No, it's far too much. And also I realised that I so wanted to be on set. And with producers, unless you have Luke, who's fabulous and is on set all the time pretty much, with producers you'd set everybody off and you kind of sit back, whereas I wanted to be in the mix.
And I've tried what you do as well. I've tried a bit of script supervision for like a day on a shoot where our script team was ill for like a super last minute, and very quickly realised that I was not cut out for that. So yeah,
I just turned your headphones up a bit, Luke. I realised they were very loud. So if you got the volume in your ears, that's why. I hope that's better for you to hear. Do you see a lot of this, Luke, in the industry where it's a case of, because I mean, like, first of all, before you answer that, a TV or movie set looks alien to somebody that's just walking in and not seeing what's going on, whether it's the lighting, what's a DOP, who's there typing on a laptop, and who's that, there's so much going on. To the untrained eye, it does just look like chaos. When people see like sets of an Avengers movie or Downton Abbey or whatever you're watching, and you see all these apparatus everywhere, it just looks insane. So like, to try and find your spot, your role in amongst all that chaos, do you see that a lot with people sort of moving around?
Yes, and I think more so recently, because there's less work. And so people are learning to... it used to be specialize, and I think people are now learning to kind of expand their tools and their skills. Like Merryn and I were chatting just before this about like there are certain people that we've worked with who actually kind of are a little bit helpful in any department, who kind of have enough skills to maybe be an assistant to art one week and to production the next week, and those are the people that are great and useful. But I guess I kind of came lucky in that, like, as you know, I started making stuff myself from about 14, where at that stage you're kind of doing everything. And slowly, as the scale of the next project grew and the next project grew, learned the things I didn't like doing and the things to delegate.
So you grew up on sort of TV sets and stuff in and around that, and you got Luke, the independent star, who's kind of taught himself. When you work with someone like Luke, do you feel inspired by what he does? Can it be annoying? Like, is something like, oh, you're not supposed to do that? Like, but he's like, but this is how I've always done it. Like, how does that translate?
There are a few people who are like, but this is how I've always done it, and that gets frustrating in a kind of growth perspective, because it's like, you know, I think what's important and what Luke does really well is acknowledging when someone has more experience than you and taking in what they have to say. Doesn't mean you have to implement it, etc. You know, you can listen and say, you know, XYZ is how bigger productions do it. Have you thought about doing that? And if you're like, well, no, that's not going to work because we're a smaller production, we're a smaller company, etc., then yeah, that's fine. But for film and TV, there are so many ways of getting into it. It doesn't really matter how you got there. It just matters that you've got there and you've got the experience and you know the people to get you in.
Yeah, the biggest thing to realize, which I came to know, is I've gone on to bigger sets in smaller roles, similar to actually the production I met Merryn on. But like, I feel like I was very self-aware about being self-taught. Like, I didn't do the uni route. I wasn't anyone's trainee.
Yeah, because you dropped out of college, and I was like, why are you dropping out of college? This was your dream, man.
I saw A-level through, but then I didn't take further education because I felt like I was comfortable in what I was doing, but then walk onto a set and I'm like, do they all know that I'm not? And you come to no one cares. no one cares, and actually everyone's insecure about themselves. I remember I gave a talk in a school a few weeks back, maybe a few months ago. Time's weird. And I remember one of the kids being like, oh, how do you deal with like imposter syndrome? And I was like, I don't know if I'd deal with it particularly well, but what I can tell you is that absolutely everyone in that room also has imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is a bitch. I'm going to leave that in because it's awful. It is awful to get over. Like, have you dealt with that in the past, or is it something like you don't? So
the role I ended up landing on is called script supervisor, which is better described as continuity. So we're in charge of making sure actors pick up mugs with the right hand, all of that stuff, making sure the DOP, the director of photography, the person filming it, doesn't break any film grammar rules, which there are rules actually in cinema, and you know, talking to the director, making sure the actors are saying the right things and doing the right things, and making sure all the other teams are on top of their continuity, you know, all of that stuff. It's a big role. And it very much does rely on your knowledge and experience to do it well. And because as well, we're a department of one, we don't necessarily have the progression that everybody else has of like, oh, I started as a camera trainee and I moved up and I was promoted because I knew what I was doing, and, you know, all of that stuff. You kind of come in and you're head of department and that's it. So it is very imposter syndrome inducing.
I guess it must be difficult to go toe to toe with someone. I'm not saying all actors are full of ego, but I guess there's definitely a large portion of them that are. And when you're saying, no, actually, you were over here facing that way, and they're like, well, you know what I mean? Like, to go toe to toe with someone like that, when you are the be all and end all, because continuity is so important with film, because you know, ladies and gentlemen, filming takes place over days. So like lighting has to be the same, the clothes have to be the same, even the stubble has to be at the same length, everything has to be perfect. So when you're saying to the actor like, no, you were facing this way and your head was down this way, and they're getting that, have you had any difficult situations with that?
It's always a matter of depending on the director. Some directors want you to go straight to actors with notes. Some directors want you to go through them because they know all of the emotional stuff that the actors are taking on and what they're thinking about in the scene. So sometimes they're like, no, don't bother them with that. And sometimes they're like, actually, yeah, go ahead. So depending on the director, sometimes it's like you go through them or you go straight to the actor. And a lot of times I've gone straight to the actor and they've gone, no. And I've gone back and checked and like recorded the playback on my phone and gone, actually, and they've gone, oh, okay, sorry, blah, 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 blah.
Wind your neck in.
Yeah. But sometimes I've had it with a few experienced actors that are just like, I'm not doing that. And in that situation, it's very much part of the job. And in that situation, you go to the director, you say, I gave them this note, they told me this. And then you kind of have to decide whether that error is enough of an error for it to be a problem, or,
I guess it depends on how much the director cares about the project they're working on, I guess. I mean, if it's something like Stranger Things, for example, we'll talk about that because that's the hype at the moment. But if you're going to talk about something that would ruin the whole series because the continuity is completely off, then you're the be-all and end-all, aren't you?
Sometimes it is a compromise of like, okay, there is a continuity error here, but like this is the strongest performance, and who's going to notice? And these are the conversations I'm in post-production on my sketch show at the moment, and we've had some lovely script supervisors on that. But I'm then sat with my editor and I'm going, that pen's in the wrong hand. And he's going, yeah, but that's in the background. No one's noticing it. And the actor in the foreground is giving the best performance.
Yeah.
Leave it be.
That's also an issue that script supervisors don't go into post. So basically we make notes for the editor and we say, the director didn't like this take because of that, but we liked this take because of this. And we'll write down in our notes sometimes as well, like there's a continuity error here, continuity error there. But at the end of the day, it's the editor's job to build the world. And if they think the world is built better by having a shot with a continuity error in it, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
So it's we could do a perfect job on set, but the editor could decide actually that's the better performance.
But even the best get it wrong, though, don't they? I mean, remember
100%.
years ago there's that Starbucks cup on the scene for Game of Thrones,
And there's the famous Devil Wears Prada scene where they're like in the restaurant or whatever, and his glasses are on his head, then on his face, then on his head, then on his face. It happens, but then as well, everyone laughs because people don't notice.
I'm impressed by the actors who nail that. There's a few times I've done stuff with an actor and I'm like, he's moving those glasses around a lot. And then you go and watch playback, you're like, oh, he has hit that note every single time.
Just with the use of a...
But it just looks
gesture.
so natural that I'm terrified of continuity. And then I go to the script supervisor or to the editor and they're like, yeah, no, they hit the mark. Like, they're putting them on their head or whatever at each point, which is, it's a lot. And it was when I moved on to doing the sketch show as well, like that, there's a few sketches where I'm in front of the camera and it's weird, it was the other way around where like I'm aware of all of the things that can go wrong, and it took the directors and the ADs a long time to actually slow me down and go, leave that to us. Because I was so like, well, I don't want to move too much because then I might cause an issue on the reverse, and they're like, no, just play it. Just play it naturally and wait for us to tell you if you've screwed anything up.
Sometimes it's good to not peek behind the curtain, isn't it, when it comes to TV and movies? Do you know what I mean? Because I know how it works now. I've seen TV sets and stuff, like how they work, like the shots from behind and stuff. Sometimes you see the mouth moving, but they're nowhere near saying what's on the audio.
Yeah, because they've had to cut that scene in half or whatever. Yeah.
So it's like, deep down I'm going, I know how that was made, but I'm trying to push that to the back of my mind. And also, the identity of the TV and movie industry is a completely identity to what it was like in the 30s, the 50s, the 60s, because we've had, I'm looking at like rule changes that were made. They used to like own the talent in the 1950s. They used to own the rights to that actor, and if they didn't like what you did, or you were, you butted heads with them, they would extend your contract and keep their ownership of you. Things like this, like that have changed over the years. So now when I look at young people coming into the industry, I'm thinking, what kind of movie industry are you aiming for? Are you going for like, okay, kids, let's make a movie? Or are you looking at what there is today? And what is it today? Because even as far back as a couple of years ago with the Me Too movement, things have changed dramatically. Like they've gone from looking at like the rights of the actual content that is made, and now recently looking at how the people that make these things are changed. And that's been a huge shift in TV and movies.
So it's fascinating that you say that, because that is exactly why we're here, pretty much. So all of this talk about me being a script supervisor, I'm actually not anymore. I decided to leave the industry in August. And I didn't really know what to do with that. for a while, I kind of thought, oh, I'll write a piece about it and whatever, and and then I was like, oh, do I really want to write a piece about it? Do I just want to disappear? And eventually I was like, no, I'm going to write an article about why I decided to leave the industry, because I think it's important for people to know what actually goes on.
Yeah.
So, and you know, people have said, you know, oh, you're just a young person who can't hack it, and it's like, well, I've been in this industry for 10 years, so.
Yeah.
There's such a kind of blasé acceptance of being treated quite horribly in an industry that is for joy, you know, and I think there's this taboo around, well, you're not doing an office job, or, you know, well, it's a dream job. Think of all the people who want to be here, and it makes it a much harder place to speak out if you feel you're being treated unfairly, if you feel like there's bullying, if you feel like your access needs aren't being met because you're replaceable. There was last year, and anyone feel free, I guess, to email in and correct me if some of this is wrong, but like Emily in Paris, the Netflix show, their assistant director suffered a heart attack and died, and like a couple of days later they just carried on filming because time is money and everyone is replaceable, and I think that's terrifying.
Oh, I mean, we saw it rear its ugly head on Rust, I believe.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, alongside all the safety issues that Rust brought up, if you read about what actually happened sort of minute by minute afterwards, the script supervisor called the police. Mm. And in reality, the AD is in charge of making sure that everybody is safe. The AD should have immediately called the police and all of that stuff. And I don't think we're particularly... I'm trying to think I don't think we're particularly prepared in the film and TV industry for disaster, because it is an industry that's very much like, well, you've got to keep going because we've got a post-production deadline, and then we've got a submission deadline, and then we've got the deadline that it needs to go on the streaming services for. Or, you know, we've got a deadline, and it can't.
And you'd think we're saving lives with the amount of pressure that goes on, but actually, you know, someone flicks through and goes, "What's this?" Watches 10 minutes, goes, "Nah, what else is on?" And that's what we're going through this crap for.
Yeah, and it's hard because there's so many people out there, like you said, Luke, that want to make it in this industry, that don't want to do anything. I don't know what I can and can't say, because my son is a budding young actor, and he's done a lot. He's been on theatre an awful lot. He's done TV commercials. He's done all sorts, right? But I've seen behaviour that's raised my eyebrows, and that's definitely, I think, because people feel like they could. I think there's a queue of kids that goes around the corner. Like you said, kids in particular are replaceable, because as soon as you open the door for one kid and close it, and there's already one there waiting.
Especially
you know what I mean?
in acting, I think acting's the worst for it. Yeah.
So when you talk about bad behaviours and treating people in certain ways, I've seen it. I know it happens. I think, especially when they're young, they're just expected to get on with it. And that for me, it's upsetting to see. But I get that you've got to have tough bones in this industry. I've interviewed like dozens and dozens of actors, producers, directors, stunt coordinators, all sorts of people from all over the industry, to know that when it comes to rehearsals, when it comes to being on set, when it comes to actually trying to deliver a product, it's hard in your face. Show business is cruel. It really is cruel.
And there's this acceptance that, oh, well, that's just how it is. And we found this kind of in speaking about it here, is there's the sort of, oh, well, some people can't make it, as you say, like, but also the, oh, well, that's just how it has to be. But or sometimes I hear people say, yeah, well, every workplace is like that. And even if that is the case, so what? Let's change it. And so one of the big things I learned when we were doing Henry House was, you know, a micro budget production. I was pretty much the whole production office. And one of the first things I did is I reached out to some of the team that did a CBBC show called A Kind of Spark, which was about a young autistic girl. A lot of the cast and crew are neurodivergent. And I remember hearing that as they went to make that show, they had to change a lot of the ways in which they ran things. So I called up some of the team who worked on that and said, what do you recommend? And had a long chat about accessibility and things like that. And like, we didn't get it right all the time. But we asked the right questions. We opened the right things, even things like easy read versions of the call sheets, just these little things that prove that we care about people's well-being. We care about people being listened to when they have concerns, and things like that were a totally different approach to production than what people were used to. But it meant that every production I've been on since, I do that by default. I want to know, how can we make things welcoming? How can we make things accessible?
And easy read call sheets for those people who don't know. So
Yes,
I'm sure if you Google film and TV call sheets and look on the images, you'll see it's very much like there's bits of writing in bold, there's bits of writing not in bold. It's all in a table. It's all mushed together. You're trying to fit a lot of information in one thing. And it's basically because the call sheet is trying to inform every single member of department, every single thing they'll need.
Yeah, I've seen some where it's like so-and-so needs to be collected from the airport at this time. And it's like, one person needs to know that.
Yeah. So it's for literally the whole crew. Whereas easy read call sheets are literally like a picture of a clock and then the time that you as a person needs to be on set. Yeah. And then a picture of lunch, and it's like the time that you as a person will be eating your lunch. It simplifies everything down and it's a lot easier. I know that, I mean, I never was able to receive an easy read call sheet when I worked, but I feel like if I received both, I would feel a lot more informed and a lot more understanding of what the day is going to look like for me.
Yes.
As opposed to seeing everything.
And I was up, ridiculous hours on Henry House because I was the whole production office. And I will acknowledge that is that, I was having to do the normal call sheet each day and also the individual call sheets for all these different people who wanted easy reads. But I managed it. And it is not normal for a production of the scale that became to have to have only one person in production office. And the truth is, I should have requested or arranged more, which so that was totally on me. But I then walk onto productions where there's maybe 6 or 7 people in production office, and it's like that is a very easy thing to add into someone's tasks for the day.
Do you think it's easier or harder with a smaller crew? Because sometimes when there's a big crew, there's lots of moving parts. I'm looking at a call sheet now, and there's a cast of 14 people. Mm-hmm. I can imagine, there's sets where you walk on, and there's more than that, along with like your lighting, like I said, sound. Everybody needs to be in certain places. So, say you're working on something like Henry House, where it's a small but working unit, as opposed to what you maybe worked on with lots of people. What would you prefer?
Well, I think it all depends on how it's implemented, because at the moment, there's no real structure in how this sort of stuff is implemented. We do have a wonderful new role now called Access Coordinator, whose job is basically to communicate with people, ask if they have access needs. And a little side tangent here to mention that access needs isn't just for disabled people, it's for everybody to be their best selves at work.
Sure.
To ask for the access needs, collate them, let production know, and just kind of monitor all of that. And so maybe it will become their role to do easy read call sheets. Or maybe, we do have PAs. We have PAs for the director. We have PAs for our top line cast. Maybe it becomes their job to do an easy read call sheet for their person. It's a matter of working out,
liaising with different
departments. I think
departments.
You can only do this if you put accessibility and promoting a welcoming environment up top as your main priority from the ground up, which can sound terrifying when there's an existing infrastructure. But actually, all you're doing is you're solving the same problems that you're going to face, but up front, rather than, 3 weeks into a 2-month-long shoot when a member of your team is burnt out and you have to sort cover for them and there's no one available. What do we do? Well, actually, you build the system to prevent that from happening from the ground up. And it can actually, there's evidence that it is a more profitable way of doing production, but you just have to ask those questions up front. You have to, right through development and pre-production, have a very accessibility and people-led approach and allow people to tell you to do things differently. When you're sat talking with some HODs and everyone says, no, there's no way we can get this done, all of this thing done on one day, actually try and figure out whether you can stretch it out over a couple of days. Try and listen to everyone and create it as more of a kind of collaboration there, which the reason that I'm kind of very keen to have these sort of conversations now, and a bit of a ticking clock on it as well, is looking broadly at the Midlands. More productions are coming to the Midlands, finally. We faced the loss of Doctors a couple of years ago.
R.I.P.
Yeah, which was, I think we will feel its absence for a long time. But more stuff's coming here, especially high-end television. There's the new studios in Digbeth. They're doing the next block of Peaky Blinders and things like that. And stuff is coming to, I'm saying locally whilst in Shrewsbury, but Birmingham is still close. And I was at this event a little while ago where they were kind of promoting more stuff coming to the region. And I heard someone say the terrifying words, Birmingham could be the new London. And I was like, I think we have a real chance to do something else here, because the Midlands and to an extent, whether you count Shropshire in there or not, but Shropshire and all of these kind of regions, we have been behind on the industry for a while. There's not as much coming over here. There's a reason that in Shrewsbury people still don't shut up about a TV movie Christmas film from 40 years ago, because nothing really comes here. But
And if they do, it's usually at the prison, isn't it?
yes, yeah. And so we have all of this, but actually being behind can be a benefit to us, because as stuff is growing, we don't have an old infrastructure that we need to work from. We can rebuild into a people-led, integrity-led, accessibility-led approach to production that suddenly turns the region from being the place that no one films into the area where people suddenly felt appreciated for the first time, suddenly felt like their needs were being met for the first time. And I think that, the more stuff that comes to the Midlands, the more they rush into replicating London and Manchester and things like that.
So you're saying it's a legacy culture, what we're seeing right now. This is from people, I mean, like you mentioned, we've always done it this way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they teach people how they've always done it this way. And they teach people how they've always done it this way. This is the vibe I'm getting from the Kevin Spacey stuff and all the stuff that we've seen over the last couple of years.
All of the open secrets.
All this toxic stuff that's been happening on set around people is because, it's just Kevin Spacey being Kevin Spacey. We just sweep it under the rug. It just is what it is.
Talent. Talent can do what they want.
Yeah. But there's also, like you mentioned, Luke, how if production's always happening in London around the same people doing the same things, and they've never looked at accessibility as a priority, because I mean it just makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, if someone's been recording for 14 hours during a shoot, I don't know how long you're supposed to record, but then they're tired, mental health's not great.
However long you're supposed to record, longer than that.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian Plado, a good friend of mine, has been on my podcast many times. He was the stunt double for Death in the Bill and Ted movie. And there's pictures of him passed out on his chair, like asleep in his death, and it went viral. Someone took a picture and it went viral. He said it was a whole day and night of recording, and people were just sleeping on set. It sounds sometimes like an awful place to be. And I know you said that people want to be there because that's their career, that's their thing, but it's tough.
There are times when you start to wonder why you're doing this. And it's I think the sad thing is the long hours and things like that kind of get celebrated
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah, you sort of.
Well, it's a real hog. Yeah, we got it done.
it's like,
we did it. We got
You'll
there.
never believe I did a 16-hour day this last week, or I did a 20-hour day.
I only had 4 hours of sleep. Yeah, well, I only had 3.5.
Yeah, like that's like take a step back and realize how bloody ridiculous that is.
So there is. You will ask any stressed crew member how they're feeling on a given day when it's a stressful day, when you're pushing, and they will say living the dream, which is just the perfect for everyone knows what that means, which is why I called my article leaving the dream.
I just got that, but
I love that. That's a great plan.
So and my article goes into everything that we've just covered basically. So I break it down into sections of reasons why the film industry is no longer tenable for me. And first and foremost is hours. We're meant to do I believe it's either 10 hours with a 1 hour lunch or 11 hours with like a 20-minute lunch or whatever. And then any hours extra that you get paid overtime. But in reality, you have pre-calls. So if you're working in a studio, lighting have to get in and light the set before anything else can be done. So they're pre-called an hour ahead of actual call time.
Yeah.
So they can actually get that done. Camera are getting pre-called so they can get the camera rig set up if it's a difficult setup ready for the first shot. Script supervisors and hair and makeup, etc. in the new rules that were laid out a few years ago, give an hour of their time free to production, start and end. So like basically for camera, they'll get paid from call to wrap. And as soon as they go a minute over wrap, they'll get paid overtime. Script supervisors, hair and makeup, ADs, when you go over wrap, your hour is still paid at your standard rate. You have to go 2 hours effectively into overtime to actually be paid overtime.
And I've known several people go into TV stuff, including some unscripted things, where there's no overtime rules or anything. It's just like, sometimes you run over, but like...
Yeah. Oops, we're in overtime. Guess you're still being paid for your hourly rate.
You come to learn that, like, people, like, it's expected, the overtime.
I hate that word. It's expected of you.
Well,
my God. Hammer to the head.
Traditionally, producers come round and go, we think we're going to go over X, Y, Z. Is that okay? They ask, is that okay?
In other words, you're staying here until...
In other words,
do you want to work again?
In what world are you going to be the one person that says no?
Is it as close-knit as everyone makes out in the TV movie industry? Can you get blacklisted very easily?
Not necessarily blacklisted. It can become very difficult to find work again if you're perceived as being difficult. And being perceived as being difficult means saying, actually, no, I really can't go over. I've got X, Y, Z.
I've got kids to go. Yeah,
I've got kids to go to. Exactly.
And in a region as well, if you're on like smaller independent stuff, there's a lot of the same people who come around. And I've been on, socializing and catching up with maybe like a camera assistant or something, and hearing them gossip about a trainee that I know someone else worked with who also gossiped with. So whether there's a full-blown blacklist, there's my own mental blacklist of like, hang on, these two first ACs have told me that this trainee is dreadful and horrible.
And they're going, oh, you don't want that Alex Whiteley. Oh, I've worked on set with him before. He's a right pain in the arse. And that's what they're saying, right? That's what they're, I guess. Luke's trying to be polite. I'm being hypothetical, of course, because I'm amazing.
I'm trying to come up with a really funny answer, but like I'm not in comedy writer mode.
He's a comedy. What is it ultimately that you saw on set? What was the final straw for you that was kind of like, I'm done?
So, basically, there wasn't a thing that the industry did to me that was a final straw. To me, in the last few years, I've been pursuing diagnoses, and not last year now, we're in 2026, Jesus Christ.
2024.
2024, I received diagnoses for ADHD and autism. And that kind of solidified everything for me in that I knew I struggled with not I knew I always needed more sleep than other people, and sleep is not something the industry readily gives you. Yeah, I knew I struggled with having to be away from home because I'm based in Nottingham. Nothing films in Nottingham, just like Shrewsbury. And so I would have to uproot myself every single time to go stay wherever I'm based for that amount of time, completely forgetting how to look after myself. What did I eat? How did I make a food plan? I have no idea. And it took like a week or so for me to actually, like, when I got home, settle down again and actually become a functioning adult again. And then by the time that happened, I would be off on another production or, you know, doing another shoot. And so I knew I struggled with all of this. It didn't click the reasons why. And for me, it was just a matter of deciding that the career that I've gone down isn't suitable to my neurotype. And it's not an, oh, woe is me, I can't do this because I'm disabled. It's well, actually, I choose not to deal with that anymore, actually.
And ultimately, this isn't about you. This is about the industry on the whole. It's how can we cater for people that do have ADHD and autism? Why are these things not in place? Like Luke's mentioning, why is accessibility not at the top of the list? Why are we not looking after people?
We're missing out on so many talented people because an industry that is, quite frankly, full of neurodivergent people.
Oh my God, the amount of people you come across who are undiagnosed.
Yeah.
You're just like,
It's built to a neurotypical world and nothing else. And to be honest, not particularly great for them either.
No.
So it's not helping anyone, but no one wants to rock the boat. No one wants to risk the fact that it might take a little bit longer at first to do something that becomes a time saver later on. And it's... it's bizarre. But
it's like I mentioned in my article that I don't have kids. I don't plan on having kids. However, all the crew members who do have kids, who have decided to have a family, who have familial obligations, like, they have all of my issues that I highlighted in my article, the hours, the location, the mental health stresses. And they're still needing to look after their children and be there for their spouses and have that extra capacity. Like in the location section I mentioned, like there was a stat. I used a lot of stats from the Looking Glass survey, which is a survey that the film and TV charity produce, like I think every other year or something like that. Basically asking people from the film and TV industry to anonymously report on the challenges they face and the mental health issues that they have and the money issues they have. And there was a stat that said that I think film and TV crew at weekly commuting times is like 9 hours or even more than that. And so if say you're shooting in Bristol and you live in Cardiff, you're travelling to Bristol every day, but then if they decide to do a shoot on location in Bath, you've got to then drive from your house in Bristol to Bath.
Yeah.
And, you could maybe stay in Bath for the week, but you have familial obligations. You then got to go home during the weekend. You can't stay in Bath and recuperate over the weekend and then go back to Bristol.
Yeah.
You have to go back to your children, to your spouse, It's
how do you come up with jobs in particular? Are you part of a production company that goes, right, we're off, we finished this job, we're moving on to the next one, you're coming with me? Or do you have to apply for every single production job individually?
So your script supervisors are not taken on.
You don't carry them with you?
No. If you're lucky, a director decides to like you and they take you on project to project.
I love that. Decides to like you.
or a DOP likes you and suggests you, and you're taken on like basically all of their jobs if you're lucky. If
when
not,
they
it's
get
literally
the chance to recommend someone, which other times the director or the DOP, equally a freelancer, are just told, these are the people you're working with for a month. Good luck, and like that's it.
What's most important with, and it's really sort of like on the fence, is it important to be likable or get the job done?
Likable.
I think likable. I remember. I'm going to try and be vague enough with this point. There is a certain role on a set, and I won't say what it was, just in case people figure out who I'm talking about. There's a certain type of role on a set that I did 2 films back to back. One of them was with someone who was really insecure and uncertain about their ability. They were fantastic, but if they only knew something 99% rather than 100%, they'd say to me, I don't know how to do this. And for a while, as a producer, that can be a bit of a panic. I've hired you, but you don't know how to do this thing, whatever. But I also worked with someone in that same role on a different production who did not know very much, but did not want to share that they didn't know very much, and had a big ego and acted very much like they know everything and didn't want to show any sign of weakness. And it's the person who maybe occasionally asks for support that is the person I want to come back.
Arrogance is a red flag for you.
Absolutely. And I understand, one of the things that Merryn and I have been talking about recently is like that these people who have the egos and everything else are also victims of the system. So this isn't, us talking about this isn't to kind of throw shame on the industry. It's not kind of Merryn's big mic drop and off we go. Like, this is actually there will be less of these toxic personalities if we get rid of the systems that allow them to grow. And often it comes from a degree of insecurity. It comes from a wanting to be hired onto the next job and wanting to come across that you know what you're doing. And fake it till you make it is a thing that I've been...
Oh, yeah.
I have been on jobs where I have asked for support and been told that, you've got to fake it till you make it. You can't ask for help. And I'm like, I don't know how sustainable that is, because the job's not going to be done. If I don't know how to do it, pretending to know how to do it doesn't resolve the issue.
Also, the whole "it's not what you know, it's who you know," which I very, very tongue-in-cheek at the very, very end of my article make a very, very quick reference to Nepo babies. And I was like, should I have said that out loud? Oh, well.
I know some lovely Nepo babies, but...
I think there are a few examples. Jack Quaid, for me, is everywhere at the moment. I think he's brilliant. Dennis Quaid, I think he's probably better than his dad. And also, a name can help. It can help. I mean, I'd use Casey Affleck as a good example. He starred in Gone Baby Gone in 2007, which was a Ben Affleck directed movie, and you think, oh, he's only got it because his brothers directed the movie. But actually, if you've ever seen Gone Baby Gone, it is phenomenal. I feel like sometimes, you're drawn to the name as Affleck as a name, and you go and watch it and you find stuff. I don't know if is it a paradox? Do you enjoy it because it's an Affleck affair, or do you enjoy it because it's good? What does it?
It's a bit both, and absolutely. Names are marketable, especially actors-wise. Like
actors, directors.
That is how you get money. I'm in development for a film at the moment where I am having to have these conversations with casting, of like talking to the casting director and going, but are they marketable enough?
Yeah.
Are they going to bring in the money that's going to allow our investors to get the ROI we've promised them, to allow these streamers that are interested to back? So there's a flawed system, but it works in a certain way, and you can't disregard it entirely, because it is still, the name on the poster that gets the audience through the door. But it's just, what do you do with that? What do you do with this?
It's not what you know, it's who you know, and the authority behind your name that allows bad behavior to get through, that allows people who are not necessarily the best at their job to continue doing the job, because other people will just pick up the pieces. And it's, because you've been on XYZ film, great, we'll have you. And it's what allows bullying and harassment, etc., to continue.
I mean, I know that there are examples, I'm going to say the whole industry, but there are examples of TV and movies and even film theatre all being a kind of toxic environment at times, especially when it comes to egos, and also deadlines, pressures, and making sure that everything is where it needs to be. Since things have changed, since I'd say 2022, when all the Me Too stuff came out, and there were new systems put in place to protect actors and stuff. You've been on sets for a while when that happened. Did you see these changes happen right away? Did you see enough of it? Was it relevant? I mean, how was that for you?
I think the biggest change that I saw was the implementation of a role called intimacy coordinator.
Which is ridiculous that they didn't exist before.
Which is ridiculous. And their role effectively is to choreograph sex scenes or intimacy scenes.
And I guess also like things with young children, making sure that if it's a dad and a son, and make sure it's
intimacy
appropriate.
coordinators have also done like family member intimacy as well. Absolutely. And it's about, they will choreograph things. They will be the last person on set to be like, okay, don't show XYZ because this actor is uncomfortable with that. You know, all of that stuff. They will have all of the modesty garments, etc. They will just absolutely know their stuff about all of that.
And you hear these horror stories of actors who walk into the cinema and realise that things that they'd signed a contract that weren't going to be seen, the director has changed their mind. And like, what do you do then? It's out.
It's out there, yeah.
Yeah. So I think intimacy coordinators and the implementation and use of them has definitely changed. And the way I saw crew interact with intimacy coordinators when they came in was very referential and very much like very respectful, and very much, how are we going to do this? And the intimacy coordinator would come in and be like, okay, so we're going to do a rehearsal in robes, and then we're going to come in and do our last minute checks. They're going to derobe, then we're going to turn the camera on, and we're going to, So it's about, I think, everyone appreciated those steps being put in place, because it wasn't just the actors doing these intimacy scenes without that type of direction. It was everybody else going, how on earth am I meant to feel like this? Two of my co-workers are basically naked in front of me.
Yeah, it's a protection.
Yeah, it's a protection for everybody.
Because sometimes you hear these things, even now, and I won't name the films, but like I hear of like, oh yeah, they didn't go with an intimacy coordinator because the actors said they were fine. And it's like, it's not just the actors.
Also, being fine before does not equal being fine after. Like the intimacy coordinator will also talk to actors after the scene and make sure that they're still comfortable with what happened.
And you don't, I think there's still, which translates to the accessibility as well, there's still just that fear of being awkward, and you don't know in those things, like, are there conversations where it's like, if you want one, we can get, but like, do you... But I think the post-2022 thing that I've seen, and it does, it has gradually led to improvement in many areas, but I think there's more of a protection of optics than a protection of people. It's more, we need to be seen to be doing something than we actually want to.
And this is where the point I was trying to, I'm glad you got there, because that's where I was kind of aiming this at, is this just a face? Is it just a face? Or are actually these things being implemented?
I think that because of the protection of optics, that's part of the reason why people don't want to rock the boat around accessibility. Is like, we're just about fine where we are. No one's thrown any legal cases at the way we're doing things at the moment, so let's just leave it be. But I think the big thing with accessibility is it will always change. There isn't just a big tick box. You can apply for jobs and submit things to certain broadcasters where it might be a diversity form or something like that you fill out, where it's like, what percentage of your cast and crew have this disability, and you tick, and for them they've gone, yep, we've done it now, we've got one of them disabled people. But it's not just about inclusion, it's about a lot of if you were to hire someone in a wheelchair onto a production and you were to know that there were going to be steps on the way to the building, I'd like to think you'd arrange a ramp. So if you're hiring someone who has a neurodiversity or something like that, you need the ramps. You need the
metaphorical ramps.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not just thinking like an autistic person just goes ramp. Like, you want something a bit more. But it's so... I think we're getting there slowly, but people are so terrified of rocking the boat because they're terrified of screwing up, because we live in this kind of world in which... some big headline could come that, they say that they're disability friendly, but this happened. And I'm fully prepared that with my company, Ask Sleep Knock, and with going into all of these conversations around accessibility, I'm not going to get it right all the time. And someone might come out years from now and say, I didn't feel like I was treated properly. And the best thing I can do is go out and publicly be like, hey, look, I'm really sorry. We made a mistake.
I've grown, I've learned.
And integrity is important because we will make mistakes. But I'd like to think we're different in the way that we would own them.
And you mentioned Doctors earlier, small time soap that's been around for a long time. We could talk about the Harvey Weinsteins and the Kevin Spaceys and the, all of these big things that have happened. The Tom Cruise blowout we saw during COVID. We see all these things. They're right at the top, but these things need to be implemented on a smaller scale as well. There are lots of TV and web adverts that are made with young people, and there are lots of web-based things filmed for Netflix or what have you. There's lots going on when it comes to production, and if that is coming to the Midlands, it'd be good to start, like you said, start off with a guideline of what we can and can't do. Are you hoping to sort of affect a bit of change and all that, or are you just happy that you've said what you've said?
I think my goal in writing my article was to not leave silently, because a lot of crew members have. And then in that, show solidarity with the crew members that I'm leaving behind, and also say the quiet part out loud, because nobody, people say like, oh, it's all glitz and glamour, but it is hard. But why is it hard? It's hard because of the hours, because of the locations, because bullying is still rife, because we're not tuned into how people actually work, disabled or not,
Yeah.
And I think we're at a tipping point now in the industry where we saw a lot of people leave during the pandemic and the strikes for financial reasons. So we lost a lot of crew then. But the amount of people leaving hasn't decreased since we've recovered from that. And I think the industry needs to do something soon to change that. And I think inviting industry up into the Midlands and the North, where we've got our beautiful northern mentality, where we love each other and we're like, we look after each other, I feel like, more than the southern mentality, which is very divisive of me.
I don't particularly enjoy working down there.
So there is a difference between working down south and up north, like.
But I think
crews in Bristol and Cardiff are some of the best crews I've ever worked with. I adore them. They are so, so lovely. And I think it is like the Welsh mentality that invades that space, is that they're really lovely. The jobs are still really hard, obviously, because there's the time pressure and the money pressure and all of that stuff. But crews there are just so lovely. And I feel like if productions are going to move and emigrate up north, I feel like we have a real chance with our northern mentality to do.
I didn't know there was a little. I mean, I just interviewed Sem Perry Falvey, who's the cinematographer for a lot of Ren's music videos, and I spoke to him on Biscuit Behind the Boom. That's the other podcast I do. Sorry about the explosion, but the other podcast I do. I wanted to speak to him because a lot of the stuff that Ren has been making has been these amazing one-shot music videos.
Yeah.
If you've not seen them, go and watch them.
I'll have to listen back. I love Ren.
He's amazing. He sings a lot about neurodiversity, mental health, drugs, and violence in a way that somebody needs to be talking about these things. In a very
exactly.
good way. He was just such a nice guy. I was just, he's a very nice guy. Do you think there are some champions out there that would help you in a way that maybe like, I don't know, if you look at something like BAFTA, for example, maybe there's a position that you guys could create, or if there is already a position that exists,
there are some absolutely lovely. So the Film and TV Charity do incredible work. The way I've often described how they're used is there's almost like Samaritans for the film industry. It's a phone number on the call sheet of like, if you're really struggling, call them. But they work with productions at every stage. So they have a wonderful toolkit online to help producers kind of run healthier productions. I've had meetings with them. We're kind of wanting to involve them through development on the feature I've got in development at the moment, First Christmas, to kind of learn through their toolkit and things like that, the ways that we can make things healthier. There's also some lovely organizations. There's one called TAP, and I can't remember what that stands for, but I've heard great things about, and I'm going to hopefully interact with them quite soon.
There's also a group called DANK, Disabled Artist Network something, I forget, I'm so sorry guys, who through Screen Skills have free training on disability awareness and inclusion, etc. And when I was going through my diagnosis journey, I did a lot of that training, and it really made me understand just the literally tiny changes that are sometimes even free that we can make to make things easier.
I just want to throw in there about getting a diagnosis and how much it can be a weight off your shoulders. Not like to like understand who you are as a human being, because I always talk about, I'm very open about my mental health on the show. I got diagnosed in 2024 with PTSD and a few other things that made me realize that maybe I'm not a difficult person. Maybe there are reasons I needed to escape out of things. A defense mechanism would be to be difficult or to just cut someone out of my life. I've just made up with members of my family I hadn't spoken to for years, because I've finally settled into a position where I feel like I'm strong enough to rebuild those relationships. Whereas before they were kind of like, ooh, very sort of hot. Do you know what I mean? Getting that diagnosis and knowing how you can navigate around the world, make things easier, can also be a good tool for creating a checklist.
Yeah.
Maybe if there are things that that make things difficult on set for you, and you made a list of those things, and then you put them somewhere. Maybe there's 150 other people that feel the same way in the movie industry that can agree with you. And then you're like, then you got to start then.
Well, one of the things the film and TV charity have is a mental health risk assessment. And the moment I heard those words, I went, oh my goodness, why haven't I done this before? It sounds, and it's so, but it's even like tiny things, like departments letting their HODs know what happens when they get stressed. I don't know, when I'm overwhelmed, I drink more water. So then their head of department goes, you're drinking a lot of water, do you want to take 5? Just little things like that.
Telltale signs.
So helpful.
As well, I think part of the problem as well is people get promoted. I mean, script supervisors notwithstanding, people get promoted to HOD because they're good at their job.
What's HOD?
Head of department.
Okay, cool.
Because they're good at their job, not necessarily because they're good at managing. And that is, I think, another problem as well that needs addressing in the industry, is helping heads of departments who might not have managed a team before effectively manage a team.
And because of the nature, and there are training and things like that for a lot of these things, but the nature of the industry is you can't always take time out for training. You can't always. I'm dreadful for trying to find time to do things for my own personal development that isn't specifically project based. To be a slight kind of side point, but just a thing I want to say to anyone who might be working in the creative industries or anything like that, whether they've got a neurodiversity or disability or anything, coping and thriving are not the same thing. Don't just go, I can cope with this. Actually, what will make you thrive? What can you try and push towards? And obviously, the issue that we're talking about is that maybe what is required to make you thrive, the producers of whatever you're on aren't ready to listen. But I also just push producers to ask the questions. One of the big kind of taglines that we've been using with my production company, with us at Knock, has been the right answers. We're not claiming to have them, but we're searching for them. We're asking the right questions.
I think the fact that you guys have got the empathy and compassion to even understand it in the first place, or understand people, is a massive, huge step in the right direction. Because when people go onto a TV set, they're expected just to know where to be. I mean, obviously there are plans in place, but go. If someone's not feeling great and they're feeling a bit anxious, a bit of imposter syndrome, and they forget to hit record on the sound or something, and there's a big, huge cost to everybody around them, the pressure is there. That is huge pressure.
And you make one mistake and you have this legitimate fear of I will never work again. Like this, everything is costly. That is a definitive point. And to the kind of producers and execs and showrunners who might find themselves listening to this, we understand everything has a cost to it. But actually, when you run things in a way that is people-led, that is integrity-led, the mistakes happen less because people feel less under pressure. And it can legitimately be more profitable. You save more time by treating people nicely. But I think I've noticed, whilst kind of having different conversations around my production company, that our USP had become accessibility and treating people properly. And, you know, however lovely that is, that when people think of treating people properly, they think of Ask Seat Knock. I guess kind of use your bleep if you need to. I don't want to own the copyright on not treating people like shit. Like,
I'm leaving it in.
yeah, like
Leaving it in.
it's so.
I agree.
Yeah, like I want people to listen to this and copy that. Yeah,
And it seems to be at the moment we are in an era of apathy. I know I'm aware of time. I know you guys got to shoot off in a bit, but apathy is on the rise at the moment. It seems to be, especially over the Atlantic. It seems to be a lot at the moment. There are people that I consider friends that are now championing the idea of America colonizing Greenland, and I'm like, what? How can you look at that and think that that's a great idea? Like, yeah, it's on the rise. So it's nice to see that there are people combating that with, actually, let's not be bad people. Let's think about other people's thoughts and feelings. And, you know, this generational thing that seems to be going on at the moment, where the older generation seem to be really against the understanding and the implementing of care when it comes to mental health and the care of others. I will fight you on that, and every single I'll stand on that hill with you, because I feel like the reason why we've got a lot of the problems we do have today are because we didn't have that understanding before.
Yeah, I one of my biggest regrets in leaving the industry is not staying in it long enough to become a good head of department and a good manager. So, because I saw this very, very early on. My very, very first time as a trainee, I had a head of department that did not treat me very well. And so I started a WhatsApp community full of script supervisor trainees to help them find jobs, find training, etc. And one of the first things I told them to do is do management training. Because eventually you will be a manager, and if you don't get to be a manager, you will be able to learn what a good manager should be and know that it's not you, it's them.
And knowing Luke, working with Luke, with the all the knowledge you have now and the reasons why you've left, can that not make you a better creator? Can that not make you walk onto sets and be a person of a certain ethics that maybe you can work with people of similar ethics? Do you know what I mean? Like you can create teams that on sets that just, I don't know, seem to feel good. I don't know. I'm working on the set and everybody seems to be really I've never seen this before. You guys could be like, you pioneers in this, I guess.
Yeah, I did write in my article, like, notwithstanding, there are good productions, but the thing is, good productions tend to seem to happen by accident. And it's like, oh, we just happened to get this kind of crew together that kind of act as a family, and it's all kind of working. And so if the industry was just many copies of Luke and many copies of Ask Seek Knock, maybe I would have stayed longer and been able to sort of last longer. Unfortunately, Luke is an outlier. And I can't live and feed myself off Luke's productions.
I can't either.
So, you know, it's just become that kind of thing. And I'm not thinking about it. I'm not against coming back. But for me, as a script supervisor, I feel like I've achieved what I wanted to achieve as a youngster. As a youngster, I said I want to be on one big film production in my career, and I've done that. I've achieved that.
Which film was that? Are we allowed to say?
It's not yet come out, so I'm not allowed to say.
Oh, okay. Right.
So, you know, I've done that. And
so what's next for you then? What's next for Merryn?
So that's the kind of the point of the article, is that, like, when you're in the industry, all you're doing is saying, I've just done this and I'm about to do this, or I've just done this and I have no job, someone hire me, and woo, constantly advertising your employment position, basically.
Yeah, peacocking.
Yeah, because you have to, you have to stay relevant, and you have to stay in people's minds. I don't have to do that now, and I've made a big deal actually about not telling people what I'm actually doing right now.
That's good.
So Because
fade into the black in a positive way.
I was saying this before, like
Because I don't have to.
I'm so envious of like the lack of requirement of pretending that a bad job was great. The like, I had so much fun working with all these people and can't wait for you all to see it, and then like actually sort of like walking off it thinking, thank goodness that's done. Like,
I just interviewed Mick Strawn, a good friend of mine, absolute batshit crazy. I worked on some amazing horror movies, and he was talking about how he was like on the set with these young people and how they were kind of dipshits, but like they didn't really know what they were doing, but he had the best time. He had the best time working with these young people because they learned from him, he learned from them. You know, it's really nice sometimes when you can go into a set and realise that we're all just as dumb as or as clever as each other, and we can learn from each other. Intergenerational education and learning and understanding is an absolute revelation when you give yourself the licence to do that.
yeah, I mean, I've had some lovely interactions with like actors who I've looked up to and grown up with for years and been a big fan of, get the privileged chance of working with them, and they're interested in production and they go, could you teach me how to do that? And it's just like, oh,
Me teach you?
yeah, we're all like this. We've all got things that we can bring and things that we can learn.
And the industry's not going to get better if the people who are already deeply set into it aren't willing to pick up the new stuff, which is which often comes in from the younger people.
And it's hard, you know. It is. That's not going to change instantly, you know. And promoting the new talent and wanting to have, you know, a platform for new people to come in. I'm aware I'm doing this whilst also, you know, running a production company that has a no unsolicited scripts policy.
Yeah.
Like there are ways that things need to be ran. I mean, the scripts one's more like a legal thing, which is, you know, it probably sounds obvious, but like, you know, I'm making a Christmas film at the moment. If someone randomly emails me a script for their Christmas film, they could, whether I've read it or not, they could say, I did that in my film, you copied me, you take you to court. So that's why a lot of places have those sort of policies in there.
Yeah, sure.
But that's a bit of a tangent. But broadly, it's opening that platform up. And I never want to be the person who, when someone emails and asks for advice, I don't give them the best I can.
Or at least send them in the direction of someone that can help.
Yeah,
you got,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Which is why I started my little WhatsApp community, which I'm really sad to let go of.
Yeah.
All my little trainees. I love them to pieces.
But,
I wanted to end this. So there's two things I want to end with. First of all, quick bit of advice for any people listening to this that want to step into the industry. You've got like a little list of kind of things to be aware of, or a bit of advice for them. While listening to this.
It would be careful of taking on too much stuff for free. Mm-hmm. I think you've got to be aware of your location, not only your physical location in the country, but your location in finances as well. And just, unfortunately, the industry is in a situation where you have to do stuff for free to start.
yeah.
But don't try not to stay there too long. Don't keep doing free stuff past your means.
Yeah, sure.
You will get there eventually. There's people who start in the industry at 50, 60 and do amazingly well in those few years.
Samuel L. Jackson, 42 years old when he started. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So like, you're never starting too late. Would be also like a good bit of advice.
It's a big, difficult leap going from the freebies to the paid stuff. Because you sort of feel a bit guilty. I found, like, you know, I think it's been heavily discussed on things like this, that like, you know, I've done some stuff which have been low budget and people have just done for expenses, and I think those things should still exist. And I also am not necessarily saying that running productions like that are behind me. Because there will be the odd lower budget thing that happens, and I don't think there should be a glass ceiling on writers, directors, producers.
So put an honest price on yourself.
But treat people properly. So whenever I've done freebies that I've ran, everyone's on it in the same deal. I've been on some shoots where I find out I'm doing it for free, and actually, but the sound guy's being paid and the actors are being paid, but they knew they could get me for free, so they just aren't paying. That's where I think that even if I've agreed to it, even if they've told me, I've then kind of felt, I'm not too comfortable with this. Yeah. Whereas I've always felt like it's everyone or no one. Then they know that people are being treated correctly and properly. But I think the big question, which actually, not knowing that was going to be the advice you could give, is quite tangential to the one I was going to give, which is the approach to work. It might sound kind of selfish, but I think if you're starting in the industry, when you're taking on jobs, to make sure you're not taking on too much, to make sure you're not being taken advantage of, the very simple question I'd say ask before you take on a job is, what's in it for me? I'd say in terms of asking yourself, you probably don't want to like openly say that to them. Do you want to do this film? Or
I think you should, though. I think it should be part of our normal sort of discussion of like, why am I
that's
doing
it,
this?
because and what's in it for me could be you get to work with an actor you like to do, you get to do a favor for a friend, you want the credit, you want to work with the people, or it can be you're getting paid. And ideally it's a mix of all of that. But I think if you're being offered a job and you don't have an answer to that, your time is valuable, your energy is valuable, and actually people will come to respect the people who, and obviously it's a necessity, there's a thing where, as you say, it's a job, you need to learn to survive, and sometimes you take on the films that are a bit rubbish because they pay you well. But I think once you start turning down stuff to protect your own mental health, or to kind of just, this isn't right for me right now, people value you more. People come to learn of like, oh, well, I hope that one day I can...
Well, if he's on my production, yes, he must really want to be here. Yeah. It happens a lot with the audio as well. There's so many radio stations out there that don't want to pay people. I applied for a sports podcast the other day. On the price, on the readout, it said 20 grand, and I was kind of like, wow, I mean, that's great. I could be paid to do this, and doing a sports podcast would be right up my alley. But upon discussing with them what was going to happen, goes, oh, it's not paid, by the way. And I was like, well, I've got a full-time job. I can't step away from a full-time job to do this thing and really pay your bloody talent. Like, you can't go all in on it.
I think being open and honest about the circumstances you're in are the best
policy
scenario. Yeah, and sometimes I say I don't want it to be that people who don't have the money to make stuff where they're paying everyone the legal rate cards can't make stuff.
Yeah, that's how we've ended up in this situation in the first place.
But I think it's just being very open about where you're at, being honest to people. And to be honest, some of those productions where I was on it for free when other people were being paid, even if they just kind of said something along the lines of like, we really want you, we don't have much money, is there any chance you could come and help out for a day? Sure, because you're putting your, it's integrity, and like this industry doesn't have enough integrity. So like let's be integrity led.
Once you got that, like you said, once you got that portfolio up and going, then you can be like, well, actually, this is what I'm good at, and this is what I'm trying to do with the Biscuit right now. Is I'm kind of saying like, wow, we've done like 580 episodes. I've been doing this since 2018. I've run podcast networks. I've spoken to strangers all my life. It's what it feels like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm good at this stuff. Like, give me a chance. And at the moment, it seems to be very hard unless you're like Kevin Bacon or you're Joe Rogan or you're some big thing. They don't really want to know this because there's so much out there. So it's hard at the moment to value yourself with stuff like this.
And just because I'm doing one job 1 week that's, I don't know, like £500 a day, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to say yes to the one that's less or that's free if it feels right.
I'll keep busy. Final thing I'm going to ask you, Merryn, this is a new thing for 2026. I've kind of stole from Biscuit Beyond the Boom, and it's a segment called What? I want you to... this is a variety show where we speak to anybody and everybody. I was wondering if you have a question for our next guest. Bearing in mind you don't know who they are. And it could be anything. I mean, it can be something challenging, something safe. What is your favourite colour? Make it interesting. I mean, like, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I've literally just decided in the last 10 minutes that we're going to do this, if I'm honest.
My head has instantly jumped to, what is your biggest regret?
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I don't have a question for you from my previous guest. You're my first guest of 2026. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on the show. Luke, it's always great to catch up with you.
It's been great, yeah.
We'll leave it a lot shorter than 2 years. I was chatting to Luke about this before. I was like, working with Rocking Horse and working with Luke, I'd oversaturated the Biscuit with so much content with the same people that it kind of like, when you work with SEO and work with names that kind of, when you search something online and it comes up with like a billion different things, people don't know what they're looking at. So I kind of wanted to get a bit of space, but like, I've seen what you've been doing. I want to give Ask Seek Knock a good shout because the website's great. Give it a Google, put in Ask Seek Knock Luke Allen, though, because there's lots of biblical stuff on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. AskSeekNot.co.uk. Yeah, there's that's the thing with a name like that. But you know, it comes from asking you'll receive, seeking you'll find, knock on the door will be open to you, which, quite frankly, is both my idea. What I often say: if you don't ask, you don't get. But also, that's the approach to accessibility. If you come on an Ask Seek Not production, ask and you'll receive.
And Merryn, you're happy just going into the world, doing your thing. Do you want to give anything a shout out before you get out of here?
Well, I can be found on Instagram at Merryn Rae, MERRYNRAE. And my link to my Substack article that we spoke about will be on there as well. And I'm completely open to receiving messages from people in the industry who feel affected by the article or who would want advice. At the bottom of my article, I listed a few good resources, etc. I can signpost you. I can be a listening ear. Just because I've left the industry doesn't mean I'm not open to hearing about it and hoping it gets better. So yeah, absolutely welcome for people to message me. That would be amazing.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I know you guys are doing some press junkets today, so you're off to the Shropshire Star next, I believe. But thank you so much for joining me on the Shrewsbury Biscuit today.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers. So there we go. What a great episode. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Merryn. Really cool to talk to you about these things because I feel like there's a couple of reasons why I think it's important to have these conversations. One, because I feel like people shy away from having these conversations because of what we talked about in this episode is how things have always been this way. How, if it's not broken, why fix it? Well, obviously there are things that change in the environment around us. So when it comes to the movie industry, I feel like HR and treatment of people in the workplace has improved incredibly over the decades of change and societal changes, and there's I feel like the TV and movie industry is one of the things that has struggled to change. I feel like there are certain behaviors that seem acceptable in the movie industry that you could not get away with. You couldn't get away with in a normal work environment. So yeah, I feel like change needs to happen. And if anybody would like to come on the podcast and follow up about that, maybe you got a counter argument, or maybe you got examples of things that have changed, and you would like to champion that, please just get in touch. I think it's really important that we have these conversations, both for and against. And I never want to rug people up the wrong way. It's quite I don't really do politics and stuff on the podcast, but I feel like it's good to have healthy discussions. Right, for next week's episode, we've got an amazing guest, Alice Nestor, who is coming on to talk to us about her journey with, I know you said adventure then, but I said that on the podcast, actually, you'll catch that. It's her journey with a brain tumour, her discovery, treatment and recovery from her finding out she had a brain tumour. It's an incredible story. And again, one that we need to discuss because we read about these things an awful lot, but when it comes to the actual discussions of what actually people go through, this is why this one's important. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning, this happened because of a post on a local social media group, you from Shrewsbury When, and it's because of that, you guys tagging me in that post that this happened. So thank you to everybody that made that happen, and you got that to look forward to next week. If this is your first time listening to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast, first of all, thank you for tuning in, and also you guys that listen every week as well. I love you. But if this is your first time, please give us a follow on social media. All of that helps, right? So we're on Facebook, on Instagram, we're on TikTok. I need to do more with TikTok. I feel like I do most of my things on Instagram. It's just such a cool app. Honestly, I love it so much. So you can find most of my stuff on Instagram and Facebook, TikTok too, I guess. But if you want to find out more, you can go to my website, which is the shrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk. You can find links to the episodes for wherever you want to listen to them. You find information about me. There's so much going on there. It's a great website made for us by our friends at Web Orchard. They're our sponsors. They make wicked good websites. So they are brilliant at what they do. And if you need a website for whatever you're doing in the world, they'll make the perfect website for you. So make sure you visit Web Orchard, and make sure you tell them that we sent you. because that'd be really cool. So thank you to Web Orchard. Make sure you check us out. And thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said earlier, we got a great episode lined up for you next week, and I hope to see you there. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.
Said I took my lumps, roll with the punches, made my bed, ignored my hunches. I focused on the wrong stuff, but baby, you are the change now. Let them talk, let them talk, let them talk. Took my lumps, roll with the punches, made my bed, ignored my hunches. I focused on the wrong stuff, but baby, you are the change now.